Let's go. Let's have a big win in Nevada. Let's have a big win at the SEC. Let's put this thing away.
Welcome to this special edition of the Journal Editorial Report. I'm Paul Gigot. That was Donald Trump in South Carolina last night after voters there handed him his second straight primary victory, beating out his closest competitors by 10 points and leaving Florida Senator Marco Rubio and Texas Senator Ted Cruz in a virtual tie for second place. So as the GOP race heads to Nevada this week and then on to the Super Tuesday states, is Donald Trump on the path to putting this thing away? Let's ask Wall Street Journal columnist and deputy editor Dan Henninger, assistant editorial page editor James Freeman, editorial board member Dorothy Rabinowitz, and columnist Jason Riley. So, Dan, let's start with you. You saw the performance in South Carolina, very strong by Trump, a little down, a couple of percentage points from New Hampshire, but did you see any real weakness since New Hampshire?
Yeah, Paul, I think I saw something that I could describe as weakness. So he got 32.5% of the vote in South Carolina. So let's, for the sake of discussion, say that Donald Trump has locked up 1/3, 33% of the Republican vote. The question is, how hard is that other 66% set against him? And if they continue to, the other candidates continue to divide up that 66%, given the way the primaries are run, he can stay out front and secure the nomination. The pressure now, though, comes on all the other candidates to decide how long they can stay in, how long can they maintain anything other than a three-man or even a two-man race.
And we want to get to that, but we want to talk a little bit about Trump's support, Jason, which is very broad, still across the whole Republican spectrum, conservatives.
He did very well among evangelicals. He did very well among independents.
He beat Cruz among evangelicals.
Self-described Republicans did well. Independents he did well with. Very impressive. Very impressive. Again, beat Cruz. Remember, he beat him in New Hampshire as well among evangelicals. And this was supposed to be a place where Cruz excelled in the South Carolina primary. It didn't happen. So that was a very, very impressive win for Trump, and he has the momentum now. 2 straight victories, large victories going into Nevada, going into Super Tuesday. He has the wind at his back. He thinks he can run the table. It is not out of the question, Paul.
Well, I want to show you something that from the Wall Street Journal NBC survey this week of Trump's favorables and unfavorables compared to some of the other candidates. He is at 31% net unfavorable among the Republican candidates, compared with all the candidates, compared to Hillary Clinton, net unfavorable only 13. Right now, Trump is by far the candidate with the highest unfavorables, as Dan suggested. Normally, with this kind of performance in New Hampshire and South Carolina, you'd steamroll to the nomination, Dorothy. But is this an obstacle for Trump?
Yes, it is. And this is not normal times. And as Bernie Sanders has just proved, momentum stops sometimes. And one of the things that happens as this thing goes forward, you begin to develop a pattern, and this is something Trump has done, and even his most devoted fans will notice certain things like he takes back everything he says that's volatile that he said the day before that is causing him. This goes on and on. He did this with the Pope.
I want to deport Mexicans, for example, but illegals, but they can come back.
And the Pope was outrageous, and the next day it was really okay what the Pope said. And people out there who are his devoted fans, who are waiting on what he will do for them, may soon be saying to themselves, well, what if he gets to the White House? And he says, what do you mean, the wall? What wall? I never said I was going to build a wall. This is the kind of unreliability that may be seeping in.
James?
Well, I think it's actually, in some ways, a bad night for Donald Trump.
You do?
Because Jeb Bush quit. And what's happening here is, I think, a natural, healthy winnowing process. It's a rough and tumble competition. I think for the reasons we've described, 59% of the country in the Journal NBC poll does not like Donald Trump, negative rating. He is not going to be the nominee. And as it moves along here, his problem is these upcoming primaries are not winner take all. So he needs more than 1,200 delegates. He's up to about 67. I don't think he's going to get them.
When people are asked what candidate do you think is most presidential, they still say Marco Rubio. When they say who tells it like it is, they say Donald Trump. some of his support is about people wanting to send a message,
right,
not about electing a president. I think that is what some of the other candidates are counting on in addition to Trump's high negatives.
Let's take on Ted Cruz, Dan. You saw that he finished third, close third to Marco Rubio, but I think it had to be a disappointment for Senator Cruz. He had hoped as a state designed in many ways for him with a strong evangelical vote. What do you think hurt Cruz in South Carolina?
Donald Trump hurt Cruz in South Carolina, Paul. There is no question about it. I mean, Donald Trump has driven Jeb Bush out of the campaign, and now the question is how much pressure is he putting on Ted Cruz? Ted Cruz indeed has been expecting to gain the evangelical vote and the vote that wants to clamp down on immigration. Donald Trump is winning both of those categories by a significant margin over Ted Cruz. And so Ted Cruz, since last night and this morning, has become arguing that he is more the conservatives candidate. And I think in an odd way, Paul, that Donald Trump is doing to Ted Cruz what Bernie Sanders has done to Hillary Clinton, which is to say, push him more in a direction that he started out in, pushing him further right. And the question is, how is he going to make that work in the Super Tuesday primaries with Donald Trump just basically taking away most of his vote?
So Rubio, the big surprise, Dorothy, did very well, recovered from his New Hampshire stumble, and yet came back, showed some resilience as a candidate. What do you attribute that to?
I attribute that to the inevitability of his character. That was a flop before, and I think people suspected that he would rebound. But the truth is that
not guaranteed, though. I'll tell you that. A lot of people make a mistake like that, and they're gone.
If I may say so, if you would listen to Rubio and you knew him, you knew that this was not some scripted robot, but somebody else, and that somebody else came forward. But what also attributed it to is the desperation of this fight. And people were saying to themselves, even now, who is presidential?
Do you think Rubio made enough of a statement to be able to carry this on? But he's got to win somewhere.
That's the problem. Where do you see Rubio winning in these states going forward? I still think it was a worse night for Cruz than it was a good night for Marco Rubio. I mean, Cruz also has this problem. If he can't stop Donald Trump in South Carolina, where is he going to stop him in the South other than Texas?
All right. Thank you all.